gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for March 24th, 2023 for the next hour or so. Let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, it's Jeff Bakalar's birthday, so go find him on Twitter and say, happy birthday, Jib. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jesse Norris. Jesse, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I got knocked out of bed like a goddamn trampoline with all the news going on today.
Yeah, there's some developments happening, some new stuff to talk about. Surprisingly, in the APK merger acquisition thing. So
hardly ever hear about that.
Right. Yeah, finally, reason to talk about it. Finally, something new. We'll be able to move that story ahead a little bit here today. We'll get to that here pretty soon. But first, how'd your week go, Jesse? How's everything going?
My week was pretty good. I played the crap out of a game I talked to you about, Dredge, which reviews went up for yesterday and is excellent. Reviewing really well. It's a fishing horror game.
Yeah, I tried to explain this because I haven't played it yet. But I was like, this is the one I'm like most looking forward to playing right now. And Mike was like, well, fishing horror game, what are you talking about? And then but Lucy's been talking it up and stuff. Boat. So yes. Tell me about it. Yeah.
It's a third boatswain perspective, and I hated myself. Third person perspective, but you're a little boat. You're a little trawling fishing boat in this weird set of islands that everything's going real bad. And it is focused quite a bit on fishing and like a grid-based inventory system for trying to fit all your fish onto your ship. But there's really good writing. It's really dark and melancholy, but also hopeful. All the fishing are just little timing-based mini games, so it's not like you're casting a rod and having to work it with the analog stick. It's very basic, very menu-driven. Really great music, looks really nice. I think it's the team Black Salt Games. I think it's their first game, and it's fantastic. I really loved it. It's about 10 hours or so.
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm going to be checking it out. It's got some pretty rough timing, right? Because it's coming out right now. It's got you're going to get Resident Evil 4, that Diablo 4 beta. But I think this game's going to be able to get a little bit of word of mouth now. So that's going to be good.
And it is on everything too, which I think will help. So
definitely. Yes, Nylock just put it in chat for everybody who's looking for it. Dredge, Dredge. So definitely check that out. I'm going to be playing that here pretty soon, even though there's a million other things to be playing. It's a mess. And speaking of we got a lot to get into, but first let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you're watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with UK paves the way for Microsoft to buy Activision Blizzard, but key hurdles remain. This comes from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. A key regulator has said it provisionally no longer believes Microsoft's proposed deal to buy Activision Blizzard would result in a lessening of competition in the console space, paving the way for the purchase to go through. The UK's Competitions and Markets Authority said on Friday that it has narrowed the scope of its concern about the deal. Importantly, though, the deal is not complete, and the CMA still has concerns about Microsoft's bid to buy Activision Blizzard in the area of cloud gaming. We'll get to that. The CMA said in a news release that it received a significant amount of new evidence, and based upon this, along with the careful consideration of a wide range of other information, the group now believes, provisionally, that Microsoft's deal shouldn't be all that problematic in the UK. Here's some quotes kind of that explain their thinking a little bit. The CMA Inquiry Group has updated its provisional findings and reached the provisional conclusion that overall the transaction will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in relation to console gaming in the UK. While the CMA's original analysis indicated that the strategy would be profitable under most scenarios, new data, which provides better insight into the actual purchasing behavior of Call of Duty gamers, indicates that this strategy would be significantly loss-making under any plausible scenario. On this basis, the updated analysis now shows that it would not be commercially beneficial to Microsoft to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox following the deal, but that Microsoft will instead have the incentive to continue making the games available on PlayStation. So, a couple things here, Jesse, and there's a few more other things like floating around. There's some responses from Activision and Microsoft. We'll get to all that. apparently the when the CMA says like, hey, we've gotten more info, one of the things they got was you did some math wrong.
Real wrong.
Yeah, so they were my understanding is they were comparing basically okay, if you have Call of Duty exclusive on Xbox versus if you just kept it everywhere. And when they were looking at the math, they're like, okay, so here's what would happen over the next 5 years of revenue if you made it exclusive to Xbox. And then when they looked at like what it would, like the money they would take away that they would lose by not being on PlayStation, they only looked at 1 year of revenue. Yeah, and so it's like that. Obviously, that's just not gonna. Obviously, that didn't add up because it was just wrong. So they fixed that. Microsoft helped, like, pointed that out, said, hey, can you like actually just fix that math and look at it again? And when you look at it again, it's pretty obvious that they're gonna lose a ton of money. Everyone sort of just knows in their gut that's true. And when the CMA did the math themselves, they came to the same realization. Now, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, but once again, let's look at the past history of Microsoft here with Bethesda. And like, wouldn't they be losing money by not putting, you know, Elder Scrolls 6 or Starfield on PlayStation 5, and yet they're not putting it on there, and yet they're still not putting it on there. And it's like, well, actually, I mean, from what I heard, and I said this at the time, I think I said this on the Grubb Stacks, that they did the math. Microsoft looked into every possible scenario, and when they looked at it, the math they did said if we take those games off of PlayStation, yes, it'll hurt in the short term, but the growth that we'll get from Game Pass will actually cover that. And that's just nowhere near the case in Call of Duty's case. It makes way too much money. The microtransactions are so much bigger that it doesn't add up in the same way. So these are actually two different scenarios. And again, as we've been hearing this entire time. So, I mean, at this point, we're looking at the CMA kind of losing the big weapon it might have had for wanting to try to block this. Definitely the big thing that PlayStation was pointing to for a very long time, because PlayStation didn't quite have the ground to stand on with the cloud stuff, or they weren't as interested in that. This feels like it is the killing blow to the people standing in the way of this deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was always logically, and if you looked at it legally from our we don't really actually know perspective, but if you just looked at it logically, you're just like, well, I mean, it's a vertical merger. There's no legal reason, especially with all the lobbying giant corporations have done around the world throughout the past decades, that there's no legal reason it shouldn't happen. People can look at it and be just pretty anti-consolidation, which I get, and all these things, but logically and legally, it always made sense, and that's why they had to create this high-end console market, which we'll hit more on later, where you just ignore most of the market to try and give a legal reason why it doesn't work. And when you kind of realize, well, I mean, gaming is gaming, and you can't just cut the market leader out to make your point, and you can't just fudge the math and take their direct competitors' talking points, essentially, and try and build your case off of that. I think this is just always inevitable.
You know, I think the CMA at the end here, it's like, well, we ran through everything, and they gave PlayStation a huge benefit of the doubt, and did take a lot of their talking points on. And now here we are. They sort of like, okay, we looked at it from every possible angle, and actually none of that feels right. And to me, this feels like a fair process. Honestly, in the end, it feels pretty good.
What happened with Cade in Brazil is they did the same thing. They ran every number possible, and they were like, well, no, this doesn't actually make any sense when we try to finally understand gaming. And I think a lot of the beginning of this.
Oh, Discord's crashing. Hang on, we'll get him back. Man, okay. Listen, maybe I didn't reinstall Discord. I don't think it would help. That's not an excuse. Hey, you're back.
Hey, hello.
Oh man. There it is. There you go. Now you're back. The CMA is after it. Jim Ryan.
It's actually fine. I was listening to you in the browser, and all of a sudden it just kicked me out.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Yeah. Jim Ryan's outside my house with his pair of scissors, cutting on different cords. Yeah. So you basically you were just saying like this is the kind of thing that when the regulators will talk this out, and especially like in places like Brazil, and now CMA is doing it. Do we have the same expectations that regulators like the FTC will kind of come to the same conclusion?
No, because the FTC I don't think really cares. I don't think they're looking to make. They're not looking to make a logical argument about it. They just want to show people that they're fighting big business after not doing it for a very long time.
Right. That's them sort of like taking their mandate and being like, we've ignored our mandate for so hard for so long, and trying to protect consumers from consolidation in places like with WhatsApp and Facebook. that
Mhm.
now it's like we kind of can't give any ground on any of these. And
Overcorrecting,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah, and it's okay. That's they feel they need to do that. Fair enough. They are. We again, that case is going to what is essentially a court case. The adjunct judge or whatever. I'm no expert. That court case is still supposed to happen in October.
Mhm.
I suppose it's possible that with all these other regulators falling to the wayside, sort of, the FTC could maybe want to sit down at the table. Still seems pretty unlikely.
They were, well, wasn't the rumor or like the timing behind them doing their initial not injunction, but they brought their court case was to try and get the EU and CMA to go in lockstep with them, and it did delay
Yeah.
certain things. But if the EU and CMA both say fine, even if the FTC is still pushing, I wouldn't be shocked if Microsoft just renegotiates with ABK to make it say, okay, these two have done. We're going to keep fighting the FTC, and we're pretty damn sure we'll win. So we will just close in the meantime.
Yeah, it's I think that the CMA was always the one where it's like they feel like they could lead the negotiations on what becomes the final agreement. And now that feels exactly right because Microsoft's statement, which I have down here, says it welcomes the CMA's decision to fix its financial model, and we appreciate the CMA's rigorous and thorough evaluation of the evidence and welcome its updated provisional findings. This comes from Rima Aleli, who's the corporate vice president and deputy general counsel for Microsoft. This deal will provide more players with more choice in how they play Call of Duty and their favorite games. So we look forward to working with the CMA to resolve any outstanding concerns. Now, those concerns definitely do focus on the cloud. But as we've seen over the last few weeks, Microsoft has been very aggressive on making deals with other cloud providers, cloud gaming providers, and this also feels like those concerns are already addressed. And so the CMA is probably like, okay, yeah, maybe we should just sit down, put some of this stuff into writing. You said 10 years. Sure, PlayStation's not sitting down with you, but we might sit down with you and force you to hold true to that agreement with PlayStation, even without them being here, just because we're going to force you to be true to your word across the board. And I think Microsoft's going to be ready to do that. The timing on all of this, I still want to be like, it's probably going to happen pretty soon. But with the FTC, it is still pretty difficult to tell. But this probably feels by the end of the year that this is probably going to wrap up, right?
I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't that much longer for them to just, if the EU and the CMA give the okay, I think they'll just take that and run. If they've made it very clear they're ready to fight the FTC. The FTC's main tactic is to just try to stall until people don't want to do it anymore. And Microsoft has made it clear that no matter how long you stall, we're going to keep going. So I think even if the FTC is still full board doing what they have been doing the whole time, they'll still just try and close it as soon as they can.
Are there any? I mean, other than PlayStation's cloud services, are there any other major cloud services that Microsoft has to sort of touch bases with? Luna, that's right, Amazon Luna.
I think that's it.
So, I mean, they are probably negotiating that almost certainly.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yes, and at a certain point, it's like if Amazon for some reason doesn't want to sign the deal, which I it's hard for me to understand. I guess maybe Amazon's just looking for maybe better terms or something like that.
They might be sick of all the money they have to pay Microsoft already for licensing Windows because they just use Windows on their service. So maybe I wouldn't be shocked. They haven't been adding many games to their service. They've actually been losing a ton. And I wouldn't be shocked if they're trying to do the Stadia thing of getting a Linux version of their stuff up and running before they start reinvesting in it, if they ever do.
Right. So, there's probably a lot of talking points and tokens on the table that they could try to exchange back and forth that have very little to do with video games or Call of Duty or any of this stuff. But even if that doesn't happen, I don't think there's anything that could really stop Microsoft from being like, hey, we're just going to be a publisher, or we're going to make Activision be a publisher on Amazon Luna and just start putting stuff out there. And I guess you could like revoke our license to do that, but what would you really? I mean, probably not. So
yeah, I mean, they want people to buy money on these. They're fine with the cloud platforms because you have to just buy the game from them anyways. It's not really something they're going to lose money on, essentially.
Right. And I think, the strategy with these games has always been, like a game like Call of Duty has always been to get it in as many places as possible, grow that user base and monetize them. And that was true well before Microsoft showed up. It's going to continue to be very true after Microsoft is in charge because they love services and they're going to want to be like expand the Call of Duty service model as well. Although they will probably give it a little bit more room to breathe than Activision, who is in a sort of desperate scenario of like, oh my God, we've grown as much as we can, and somehow it's still not good enough. And boy, that gives me anxiety every time I think about it, Jesse, I tell you.
It's that capitalism. Either you just must grow forever.
Yep.
Being super profitable is not good enough. But in one of the positives you can take, even though I get people are always wincing at just how big tech companies are buying everything, essentially, is that Activision Blizzard won't have that constant, we must carry this corporation on our backs by crunching nonstop on Call of Duty on their heads anymore. So they can do other games, and they can give Call of Duty years off and stuff like that a hell of a lot easier under a company like Microsoft.
Yeah, it's maybe it's counterintuitive for me, but that's why I'm often more worried about when big corporations are buying smaller teams and smaller studios, because that's where a lot of the creativity will come from. A big corporation buying another big corporation definitely on its face just looks, oh, okay, this is big and scary, and it's moving a lot of money under one roof. But it's like, honestly, what's the difference between an Activision and Microsoft? They're not really competing anyhow. No, Microsoft's not trying to make the kinds of games that Activision is making to like try to push them out of that space. They're all basically buddy anyhow. It's really the status quo and the potential change here is not that different, other than maybe I think the workers at Activision Blizzard might have a better life under Microsoft than they would have under Bobby Kotick.
Can actually make unions for once.
Exactly, that would be something they can approve. And it's like, okay, well, I'm hopeful about that, even though that might be naive. But I'm just not. I hate the idea of like the status quo is somehow this thing we should be working to preserve in any way. That is, I think, always a bad move. All right. Other side of this story, and this is a silly one, but I just wanted to bring it up. U.S. Senator blasts Sony's monopoly on cool Japanese games. This comes from Luke Plunkett at Kotaku. As Sony and Microsoft continue to battle over the latter's proposed $69 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard, more and more people, relatively powerful and influential people, are being drawn into the debate. One of those people is Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell, representing the state of Washington. I wonder why that's relevant. Who raised the specter of Sony's monopoly of the high-end game market earlier today, and went as far as calling on U.S. trade representatives to discuss the issue with Japan as part of the ongoing digital trade negotiations. During a Senate Finance Committee hearing on the president's 2023 trade policy agenda, Cantwell said, among a bunch of other international trade talk, "I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market. Yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers, establishing games that are among the most popular in Japan." This is it's cute when they try. It's like, okay, Maria Cantwell, I get that you're using the FTC's definition of the high-end gaming market there. Really, though, it's like this is so nakedly blatant. You get contributions from Microsoft because Microsoft is in the state of Washington and you're protecting the home turf, that it's like, it almost feels like it's like, oh, if this was written on a TV show, it'd be like, it's too, I don't believe that. They wouldn't be so obvious about where their interests lie. And it's like, oh no, reality is just that messed up too.
There's a thing here, and this actually blew up on Resetera last night. It was really funny because people just like tried to give the context and then others just ignored it. So her campaign contributions over the last 30 years are like $3 million from Microsoft, but it's almost entirely individual donations, because in Washington State, you have to say who you work for when you donate to a political campaign. And one of those, of course, is Brad Smith, a big guy at Microsoft. Like, it's pretty normal, but on the whole, it was during trade negotiations with Japan, and I know the U.S. and in certain things, they're pretty frustrated with There have been rumors about Sony's dealings in Japan, like Monster Hunter and a ton of other games that are on Xbox and have ports, don't exist on Xbox in Japan. Like, you can't actually buy it on the Xbox Japan store. Her 98% is close to what the 96 to 4% they said a couple months ago
at the FTC,
Brussels were. And it's a stupid metric. Yes. But it's a very stupid metric that was originally started by Sony's complaints to the FTC in the EU. So yes, I understand them using this very dumb metric.
100%. This to me, this is an example of how these things begin to snowball for everybody. Her coming out here and talking this way. Microsoft didn't tell her to go do this. Like, that's not what this is. But this is her being like, no, that's the biggest corporation, one of the two biggest corporations in my home state, and I'm gonna go up and go to bat for them. And it's like that is obvious, and that's silly looking. It looks bad. It looks silly, and when you don't understand exactly the nuances here, and the way that she doesn't, it's like it looks bad. But also, it's like this is those chickens coming home to roost for Sony, of like making an argument and then seeing all the various ways it could be turned against you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, the Microsoft started that as well, where it's like with this argument of like, oh, the high-end gaming market. Well, in that case, you know, we're gonna Brad Smith, like you said, in those charts, just pointing out one after another, like, oh, then Sony actually has 80% of the market in Europe by Sony's own definition of what's going on here. That's pretty weird, huh? It's like, okay, yeah. And now a senator is, or congressperson is in Congress bringing up those same points. It's like, oh,
and 90% of the, or 90, more like 99% of the time, most senators talk about anything new that's not 30 or 40 years old when they were young. They sound like they have no clue. So
yeah, and I'm sure they have. She used the what is the high-end gaming market. That's clearly one of her staffers writing a brief on it and saying that's the thing that's been talked about
she
here.
needed to say the Japanese high-end gaming market, and she missed that part of it. So on its face, it sounds even dumber.
Yeah. All right, Resident Evil 4 Remake has already has the most concurrent Steam players in series history. This comes from Joseph Yaden at GameSpot. Resident Evil 4 Remake has already broken records, at least on Steam, on launch day, March 24th, 2023, Jeff Baclar's birthday. Resident Evil 4 has surpassed 118,000 concurrent players on Steam, the most in the series' history on the platform. For reference, Resident Evil Village had about 106,000 when it peaked. This is not surprising at all, right?
No. I played 3 hours of it yesterday on our Twitch channel, and that game is great. I liked Resident Evil 4. I liked it quite a bit when it came out. It doesn't hold up that great just because of the controls and some of the keeping Ashley alive stuff, but it's still very good. And what they've done is essentially just fixed every old problem that most people had with it, made it look really good, made it control really well, and it's just like a perfect remake for me. It's something that really needed it.
Yeah, it's I like we did actually this Mount Rushmore remakes last night on Game Master Decides, and I think one of the things I kind of came to a conclusion is that I want a remake to be something that can stand alongside the original and not replace it. I think a remaster actually should be trying to replace the original. I think a remake should be something that is like continuing the conversation with the original, and or just like really going like ham and doing all kinds of other things. And I think this game is just like a good amalgamation of all of those factors. It seems like, and clearly it is for a lot of people, this will be Resident Evil 4 going forward. But as someone who was there with Resident Evil 4 at the time and really, really, really loved it, it's like, no, this is going to be a new way to experience my favorite thing. And I don't necessarily have to like forget about the original Resident Evil 4. It's like these things can exist. They can coexist. But this is just another example of Capcom really nailing it and kind of hitting on all cylinders and continuing to see this return on investment in their biggest properties pay off. This is going to be their biggest game ever, I think. Monster Hunter World, like that's might be a tough bar to surpass. It seems like this one's going to, though.
I think so. The series has been getting bigger and bigger. I do think they had the tiniest misstep with the 3 remake, just because they cut out too much. It was too short.
Yeah.
But 2 was great. 3 was good. Should have been great. 4 is great. I enjoyed Resident Evil 8 when I reviewed the Gold Edition when it came out last year. Like Exoprimal was really good. Is Pragmata still a thing? That was always dated for this year.
Listen, they've always got one that feels like vaporware, right? They always got one that feels like Deep Down. We'll probably see Pragmata pretty soon. I'm guessing.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope
maybe
so
it'll
too.
be if it's with Sony marketing wise, maybe we'll see it before they're in there before E3 showcase.
Right, that kind of feels like a good place for that to show up. No idea if it will, but that seems like that's right. It's been a couple of years now since we first saw Pragmata.
Yeah, because Xbox got Exoprimal, so I'm figuring Sony like they seem like a Ubisoft where they kind of rotate.
Yeah. Speaking of Deep Down, Ari Buster in chat says I'm still waiting for Deep Down. Like, it was the last time anyone's watched that conference with Deep Down, and then Deep Down is so obviously not like completely so far from anything that could possibly be real. It's actually really a fun watch these days to go back and see that and be like, nothing on either platform, even when they were pros, looked anything close to this. It's a lot of fun. Resident Evil 4 Remake will add the Mercenaries mode as free DLC in April. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Capcom has confirmed that the Mercenaries mode will be released for the Resident Evil 4 Remake next month. The Mercenaries, which challenges players to kill as many enemies as possible within a time limit, will launch on April 7th as free DLC. Capcom revealed the DLC's release date at the end of the Resident Evil 4 launch trailer, which is now viewable online. Capcom is also planning to release a Resident Evil 4 Remake VR mode as free DLC for PS5 and PSVR 2. The company confirmed last month that it had started development of the VR mode, but it didn't announce a launch window. Again, there's a lot they can continue to do with these games to kind of keep them fresh. Most people are going to come and go with it. That's just how it is. But a lot of people really love Resident Evil and really like coming back to it. And if you give them something new, they're gonna be very happy to experience that. So I expect to see that fan base to feel pretty happy about this game for months to come.
Oh yeah, it's what you want when you're a really big fan of a series. You want it to get this loving, really smartly done glow up, essentially. Like so many people love Resident Evil 4, one of their favorite, if not their favorite in the series, and then you get to play a way better version of it. It's exciting.
Yes, it is. Moving on, Respawn's Star Wars first-person shooter is inspired by classic Dark Forces series. This comes from Stephen T. Wright at GameSpot. I know I'm excited about this too. We don't know a lot about the as-yet untitled Star Wars first-person shooter game that Respawn is working on, but it's apparently going to take cues from the classics. New job listings on LinkedIn outright state that the first-person shooter will be, quote, inspired by classic titles like Dark Forces and Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. The Dark Forces game, which later evolved into the Jedi Knight series, are generally regarded as some of the stronger titles in the wider world of Star Wars video games. The original title, Star Wars Dark Forces, released in 1995 and shares many qualities in common with the original Doom. That it definitely does. Its sequel, Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, brought Quake-esque 3D graphics to the mix, as well as a lightsaber. The last entry in the Jedi Knight series, Jedi Academy, came out in 2003 to wide acclaim. The original Dark Forces was recently remade by one fan to be more easily playable on modern computers. I tried to play this game like about a year ago, and it was a nightmare to play on PC or on Steam Deck. Actually, I was trying to play it on there as well.
Oh,
and then this mod came out. It's actually very welcome. It works really great.
Fans are really good.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and they're doing a lot of great stuff out there. This is music to my ears, Jesse. I really like Dark Forces. Dark Forces was mine, and then the Jedi Knight games were like, yeah, this is. I also like these, but Dark Forces was like, I kind of like getting away from the Jedis every once in a while. I think that this Respawn game is almost certainly going to be like a very similar concept of someone discovering that they're a Jedi, so they can use both guns and lightsabers. I think that'd be pretty cool. That sounds like a Respawn game, right? Someone that can do cool Force stuff, but also shoot. Honestly, if they take some of the ideas that they had planned for that Titanfall Legends game and put it into this, that would be very cool. Especially all the things about being inspired by Hades, where it's like just building on top of your abilities and not changing the way that you do the abilities, but just making the abilities do even cooler and cooler and cooler stuff every time. Like, okay, that sounds really cool. So yeah, give me that. Like the dash in Hades, where like when you dash through bullets, you block them and they send them back. You could do that with a lightsaber, right? Dash through the bullets.
Oh yeah.
The lightsaber in first person. Yeah, come on, give me that. Respawn is the Star Wars company now at EA. It just is the case. I know they have Apex Legends. They have like one other small Skunkworks project, but all the other stuff is Star Wars, and they're gonna make another Star Wars Jedi game after Survivor, almost certainly, if that game does anything like it's supposed to do. I'm kind of okay with that. I think it's a little disappointing for a team that had so much promise of doing so many new kinds of things, but I'm also a big Star Wars fan, so I'm okay with this. How's all this sound to you?
It sounds excellent, and you know what has a lot of mechs in it is Star Wars. Tons of droids, and what if one of them was a big droid that you could occasionally get into and fight in a Star Wars game? I think that would be pretty fun.
That'd be pretty cool.
A giant droid deca.
Yeah, droid. Just like some of them come down from spaceships and land on planets, like a droid fall of sorts. Yeah, I'm on board. Give it to me. There's a rumor that Counter-Strike 2 could be coming to mobile. This is from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. A few screenshots referring to Counter-Strike on mobile have some believing that the upcoming Counter-Strike 2 could get a release on iOS and Android, as well as PC. Considering Source 2 supports those platforms, it is possible it could happen. However, it is a competitive shooter, and that seems very weird to me. Jesse, what do you think about this?
I think touch controls would not work well, but it would be what 90% of people would use, and they would get destroyed by anyone that hooks up a controller to it. I mean, they
Yeah.
could.
I mean, it's the same for Call of, well, I don't know, Call of Duty Mobile. People got really good with the touch controls on that, and there's probably a lot of assists.
Yeah, I don't know that Counter-Strike would ever be a game that would have a ton of assists.
Exactly.
People might really lose their minds.
Now, it is basically a live service game now at this point. Obviously, it has a lot of community fan-made microtransactions. Valve makes a lot of stuff for it. Games like that, I've said for a long time, they want to be everywhere. They want to be They do want to be on mobile. Eventually, all of them are going to be on mobile. That's really important.
They want to reach those 3 billion customers that Phil Spencer loves to talk about.
Exactly. But I think there's been some pushback to that a little bit recently, where it's like, it's actually probably okay if your game is just on PC. If it's a big live service game, that's really where the audience is anyhow. And sometimes if a game fits on console, definitely put it there as well. But, World of Warcraft's never gone to console. It's been fine for this entire time. I get I bet that they are considering this. I think this is coming from people like once again, like data mining the game, and they're seeing references that just basically say mobile. Honestly, when I kind of see it like that, it feels like also like a bit of a stretch. Like that doesn't necessarily, that might not mean exactly what we think it means, but if they are considering it, I'm not surprised. I bet they've tested it at the very least, because that would just be more money. And the way Valve works is, if you're someone that finds a way for the company to suddenly make a bunch more money, you get a big bonus. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone was like just looking into this and be like, I could make this work. We could get this out there. Let's try that. I don't necessarily think it's probably actually going to turn into anything real.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things prototyped and tried out that we never hear about. Every once in a while, you find a little tag mentioning it. You hear stories from people saying various things. And also, I think people have realized mobile games that are short, quick hitters are just going to be way more popular overall than things that end up having to be something you have to sit down and really focus on for a while. Like most mobile games, you need to be able to pause because you're on the bus and my stop's done, so now I gotta go. I can't be in the middle of a CSGO match. I do think things like PUBG Mobile and others have found their place, so they definitely can work. It's kind of like that battle royale fatigue where in the mobile space, if you're not first, it can be pretty hard to push your way in. And Counter-Strike's huge, so it might be able to, but that just does not seem like a game that would translate to mobile very well.
Console Counter-Strike 2 is. Have they said anything about it being on? I don't think they've said anything about it being on console.
I don't think so.
Counter-Strike Global Offensive, the whole thing there, not the whole thing. One of the things there when it launched at the time was, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive available on Xbox 360, and I think maybe it was on PS3. I played it on Xbox 360. That got forgotten about pretty quickly. Does that version even still work? Is it backward compatible? Do we know?
I do not remember, but I can look it up.
Yeah. Okay. I think going. Okay. So Hammond, Texas is saying no. It just feels so like no one's talked about it so long that I figured it probably isn't working. So they probably will consider Counter-Strike 2 for console again at some point, and that does seem more likely than mobile. I agree with what people in chat are saying. There's a console version of Team Fortress 2. Right. All those Xbox 360 ones.
Did they bring the orange box over?
Yeah, like I don't know. I thought so. I thought that was a backward compatible thing, but maybe that just doesn't work. Maybe the servers don't connect or something like that. I just have not. I haven't looked into that because why would anyone look into that? I would just play those games on PC, of course. But we'll see how that goes. I think that's pretty likely that they will at least consider the console version first. That doesn't even mean that will even happen. All right.
Never mind.
Oh yeah,
you can play Counter-Strike Go on Xbox One and Series X, but it is delisted, so you have to have already bought it before.
Oh, okay, interesting. So like, play it on Xbox One and Series X, like as in it's backward compatible, and I could boot up the version I own.
Yeah, like 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand, and some of the Fear 2 or 3, like some of the older games that got delisted over time were made backwards compatible. You just either have to have a physical copy or have already owned them to get access, or know someone at Xbox who can give you a code.
Interesting. I might test that out. That'd be fun. I want to just see what happens. It's probably not going to. There's no one playing. Probably almost certainly.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, no. And then there was a Counter-Strike for the original Xbox, right? That just they released that as just a physical game. Of course they did. It's an Xbox game, so yeah, that's pretty wild too. Okay, Sonic Origins Plus announced. This comes from Nintendo Everything. Sega has just announced Sonic Origins Plus, an expandable version of the original release. It'll be coming to Switch on June 23rd, 2023. Sonic Origins Plus includes 12 Sonic Game Gear titles, playable Knuckles in Sonic CD, and Amy Rose as a playable character in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and Sonic CD for the first time. The pack also contains previously released add-on content, extreme missions, mirror mode, new character animations, and additional backgrounds and music. They don't say anything about European extreme difficulty here, but we'll see if they add that. Those that have the original Sonic Origins can purchase the Sonic Origins Plus expansion pack for $10. But if you want to just straight up buy this with everything included, you can get the physical version for $40 or a digital edition for $40. They did this with Sonic Mania, right? They did Sonic Mania Plus. Then now they're doing it with this. I think this is fine. It's pretty cool. These Game Gear versions of these games had better versions on the Master System, where like basically the Game Gear versions are zoomed in. They're pan and scan almost, because they had a lower resolution, so they got in closer to Sonic and you could see less. It's other than that, it's still basically the same game, and they are pretty interesting games. They're different than what you would get on the Genesis. They're completely their own thing. Yeah, and
I was one of those weirdos who had a Game Gear.
Well, the Master System version's apparently much better because they zoom it out. Those aren't included, at least as far as we could tell. They haven't. I guess maybe someone's asked, but it seems like this is all the Game Gear versions, and that's a little bit of a bummer for a $10 price tag. I think if I were Sega, just do both, right? You could say they're the Game Gear versions, and then when people load it up, give them the option to do just call them like the widescreen version or the pull-out version. Okay, that's not what I meant to say.
I think that works fine.
Yeah, but I like it. They should do that. I hope they actually get around to maybe hearing some of that criticism and making that happen. But other than that, like Sonic Origins Plus seems like a game that when it first came out, Sonic Origins kind of maligned. People seem to have a lot of issues with it. Seems like they mostly fixed it though, and now it seems to be a pretty good product, right?
From what I've heard, I don't have it. That's on everything, right? I'm pretty sure that one came to everything.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the news story just said Switch, but I think this DLC will be coming to everything too. So maybe I'll check it out. Be worth going back and doing a review on.
I hate you, chat. They're just all talking about Sonic Pullout Edition. There we go.
Well, that's why Amy Rose is in there.
Yeah. Let me get this code off the screen for Counter Strike. Oh no, I broke the show. Oh, it's Friday, everybody. There we go. All right. We're back. We're good. This is why I can never let chat run the show, because they'll lead me down the wrong path. It's chat's fault. That's right. I'm blaming you. It's my birthday week. All right, next story. Hyenas reveals new Sonic-inspired character. Creative Assembly's latest title, Hyenas, is a PvPvE extraction shooter with a lot of wacky characters and references to Sega's past and present. One such reference is the newest character revealed for the game, Hero Kai, who dresses in a Sonic cosplay outfit. I do have this one here, so let me bring this here. Mostly, Jesse, I'm bringing this up because I feel like a game like Hyenas is just dead on arrival and doomed. I might be wrong. Yes. I could be completely proven wrong by that, but that's my gut reaction to this. And I'm like trying to be like, okay, is this the kind of thing that moves the needle for anyone in that audience? I don't think Sonic fans are your best bet for a PvPvE extraction shooter, but maybe.
I mean, you've got at least 100 or 200 furries that are going to be into this.
Well, listen, I'm glad that they're getting theirs. They deserve it.
If it's not free to play and if it's not carried on Game Pass like Exoprimal, then yes, I think it'll come and it'll immediately go.
Right.
And we'll be talking about Hyena server shutdown in about a year.
This is a full price game, right? That's what Hyenas.
Oh shit!
Isn't it? I thought so.
I don't know. I know some. The main thing I remember about Hyenas lately is I think some of the gameplay leaked and it looked terrible.
Right. Like surprisingly, people were talking pretty nicely about Exoprimal. I haven't heard the same thing about Hyenas. I'm trying to see if it has a price. It just feels like a rough space to be in these days, trying to be the next kind of shooter that people are playing all the time. We've seen some a lot of games sort of be like, okay, we're gonna give up. And, not all of them are shooters, Knockout City, things like that. But it's like, that was an interesting idea. It's fun. It's different. It's not Fortnite, but it's got something a kind of a similar vibe. You can do fun things like you do with Fortnite, and that feels like Hyenas as well. And I look at this, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's a fun and for people who are listening, it isn't just like, a cartoon version of Sonic in the game. It's a person wearing a fabric Sonic costume, and I like that
Yeah.
actually. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's funny and dumb, but
Yes.
looking up, I don't. It's got store pages everywhere, but no price listed yet.
No price. Okay. Uh, maybe they haven't even decided how they're going to do it. Maybe they want to charge a price, but they don't know if they can get away with it.
Mhm.
Hyenas, like most games, I'll play it. I want to see for myself. Just based on what they've promoted so far. And obviously, a lot of this goes back to me thinking this was going to be an Echo the Dolphin game and being extremely disappointed when I was just more wrong than I've ever been in my entire life.
Hey,
But,
they put a damn dolphin sound out. It's on
well,
them.
they put out a sound that was hyenas laughing, and then me and Mike put it in a slow down filter, so it sounded like it was underwater, like we were in Star Trek 4. And then we're like, oh, that's definitely a dolphin noise. It wasn't a dolphin noise. It was hyenas laughing. And I don't know why they thought that was a good tease, because why would anyone assume that it's a game called Hyenas? I don't think it has anything to do with hyenas. Oh well. Good luck to you, Sega. This is Creative Assembly, a studio with a storied history. I've done a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, very good studio. They get 90 plus Metacritics consistently. We'll see. I want to play it for myself based on that history alone. Blizzard expects unprecedented traffic and queue times for Diablo 4's open beta, which is happening today. Early access to the Diablo 4 beta was available last weekend for players who had pre-ordered the game, and the test opened to queues of several hours for some players. This story comes real quick. Tom Ivan, VGC. The Diablo 4 beta will be open to everyone from 9 a.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. GMT today, and players have been warned that the wait times to access the game will again be lengthy. As we prepare to open the gates to the sanctuary, we'd like to remind our players that the Diablo 4 open beta is a test to ensure a smooth launch. We expect unprecedented traffic and queue times as a result. We appreciate your patience and understanding. The company elaborated in a forum post. When we open the gates again this Friday to absolutely everyone, we are expecting a lot of people. There will be lengthy queue times. Also, Rod Ferguson, who is overseeing this game, basically said, everyone, this really is a true beta. We are doing this to test our technology. We are not considering this a demo at all. Now, for Blizzard, for Activision, this still acts as a demo and promoting the game. But I think as far as the people actually working on the game are concerned, this is about making sure that when the game really launches, it doesn't have the same exact sort of mess that it had with Diablo 3. Although it almost certainly will, based on the popularity of this game.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be showing up for this beta. Obviously, the beta's free and open, so maybe it'll have even more people playing than day one, but a lot of people are going to be playing day one. This is almost unavoidable for this game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was a closed one where you either had to pre-order it, which on certain things you can cancel pretty easy, or buy a KFC Double Down, their delicious sandwich when it's actually made properly and not just slapped together.
When it's made with love and care. Yeah.
Cold. If you get a cold cheese Double Down, then just know that employee hates you.
Yeah. Well, they probably hate KFC more, but yeah.
Yeah, but they hate you because you're spending money at KFC, and
that's fair. I always assume most fast food workers hate me because I hated everyone when I worked at fast food. So,
but yeah, that beta had massive issues, but only the first day. I wouldn't be surprised if this one has massive issues, probably the whole time, because the word of mouth, super positive, now open for anyone to go into. It's going to be pretty darn rough, and I do like the fact that it is a beta because you get a lot of legendary items. Like they drop like candy. And they're like, well, that's tuned way up so that we can let people experiment with builds and stuff like that. It'll be different at launch. It feels like more of a beta than something like the Marvel Avengers demo that hit a couple months before.
Or like all those
the
famous one for me, the one that like started this was the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare beta that happened to that E3 where they just gave like thousands of codes to every website. I was like, I went to GameSpot and was like, oh man, I'm gonna get a code, and I played that and fell in love. But it was like, that's clearly a demo. They're just calling it a beta. If this beta kicks off and does have all these issues here, like 15 minutes, right, is when this thing's going to start. As we're recording this, if that is how it goes down, and it's really rough for the first day, but the rest of the weekend actually is much smoother than we're expecting. I'm going to take that as a good sign, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, between now this launch, main launch, they'll get DDoS to hell and back because every Blizzard game does.
Right.
So if they can figure out a way, even I think last week probably did too, if they can finally figure out a way to launch a game and have it work, because even Diablo 3 was a week before it worked. So yeah, that would be nice. I hope they can do that. Even Overwatch 2 was messed up for weeks where your account just didn't want to actually load properly.
All right. I have one more story here that I meant to include, but I'm going to go ahead and just read it here from the GameStop, GameStop website. Actually, the GameStop Ireland website. We are sorry to inform our loyal customers that as of the 22nd March 2023, we'll be ceasing the provision of a number of services in our Irish stores and on our website. These services will include the sale of gift cards, trade-in purchases, and of used devices and accessories, GameStop Pro loyalty services, game protection, and pre-order of products. If that sounds like a lot of the core stuff that GameStop does, it's because basically GameStop is leaving Ireland. They are just getting out of the country. Now, Ireland, a relatively small market for a company like GameStop, but it's also a market that very frequently gets treated as a, the guinea pig, as a test bed for a lot of things. And it's a game. I think GameStop even ran some tests when it was like trying to change up its stores in Ireland. A couple years ago. I could be misremembering that, but I think they did.
I think you're right. And it's also like Xbox started their friends and family stuff there. It definitely seems like a test bed area for companies.
So GameStop pulling out of that market. This continues to be them contracting, almost certainly like picking and choosing where to apply resources, which we saw in when we talked about on Thursday yesterday. GameStop profitable, GameStop revenues still down. And that's going to be the battle here for them for a while. They're going to have to keep making cuts, and that's going to keep affecting people. And really, what the end result is, it's going to keep making GameStop a more and more miserable experience. Because I mean, the stories I heard after that, after we talked about it yesterday, where a lot of people saying, you go in there now, and it's even more aggressive. You could tell the associates are being pressured even more to get those sales, and it's just it's going to be rough go, because I don't think those revenues, if the revenues aren't going to continue to grow as like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S are more readily available, which they have been here recently, it's like nothing's going to make it grow. Nothing's going to actually help that company. So yep.
No, they're I mean, it's wall-to-wall Funkos half the time. It's just I don't even know what somebody came in, and instead of just trying to be the best version of a mom and pop shop available for video games, they tried to become Spencer's Gifts for Zoomers, and it just I don't get it.
Yeah, and like a really crappy Spencer's Gifts. They don't even have the courage of their conviction on that. There's like barely even cool blacklight posters.
Where are the Limp Bizkit shirts? Where's Korn? Nothing. They just got friggin' Funko Pop Fortnite characters.
All right. I have a poll from yesterday. I think I could there it is. Bring it up for everybody to see. Have you ever played Counter-Strike? 59.1% said yes. 40.9% said no. For a game that is so popular, maybe that's kind of surprising, but also that's probably just true. That's like actually maybe one of the best splits for any game ever. Like I think maybe you could ask Super Mario Brothers. I guess more people probably say yes, but I don't think much more than this. That's a pretty big number.
If you were more in Europe and Russia and China, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 90%.
Right, for sure. It's again, just to put this in perspective, this game is almost always the number one most played game on Steam. Concurrent in the millions, 1 million people playing it at any one time. And for a good game, a successful game, I always say like a successful game on Steam is going to have on average about 10,000 concurrents. So it's like if you're 10,000 concurrents, you could build a business model around that. If you have 1 million concurrents, you could be Valve. And that's about it. All right. I have a new poll question I'm going to get put up. But in the meantime, Jesse, tell people where they can find you, what you got going on, all that good stuff.
Like always, you can find me at xboxera.com. We're starting up a bunch of new things like Patreon initiatives, doing movie podcasts and Game Pass podcasts for our Patreon subs and our YouTube members. I'm after this, I'm going to stream more Resident Evil 4 over on our Twitch channel because that game's real fun. And yeah, xboxera.com. All our links are there. We've got a company name in our title, but we try to not be rabid fanboys or cater to console warring. It's just focused on that platform, but not always pro that platform.
I'm going to ask, what are you playing this weekend? And I'm going to say Resident Evil 4, Diablo 4 beta, or both.
Or Dredge.
Resident Evil 4.
I wish.
Yes, then Diablo 4 beta. And then let me add both.
Or Counter-Strike.
Is that out? Is Counter-Strike 2 out now?
I don't think so.
I think it's out in like the closed beta session, right? Like people are able to get into it if you're like one of the good ones, is what how it made it sound. Right.
Yeah, the release date's summer is what I see
yes,
here.
that's right. Okay, there we go. What are you playing this weekend? Resident Evil 4, Diablo 4 beta, or both? And I put in the parentheses there, Dredge. All right, we'll get to that on Monday here on Giant Bomb. Speaking of which, today we have a couple things going on. Later today, we'll be doing an unprofessional birthday stream where we will be celebrating both myself and Jeff Bacular. I'm sorry, Jib.
Happy 30th birthday, by the way, Jeff.
Thank you. I think I look even younger than that, I might say. I
was going to go 25, but I know. I can't lie.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Don't lie to the people. Then before that, actually, we have for people, anyone who's a supporter, we're going to be doing a town hall on the Discord where you can just come in, ask us questions. I'm going to be there. I'm pretty sure the most of us are going to be there. Bacalar, Jan, Dan Reichert. Come in there, ask us some questions. I want to answer them. I'm feeling ready for transparency. And then that professional birthday stream. We're going to be playing Garfield's Lasagna Party.
We reviewed that. It's not bad. It's a little light on content, so a stream's worth, but it's not too bad.
Okay. So I only played 5 minutes of it, and I'll say the thing that scared me about it is after every time someone rolled, it gave everyone a chance to be like, "Do you want to use an item to mess up their roll?" And I'm like, that feels like such a it breaks the momentum so much that it turns this game into like such a sludge of movement. But I don't know. We'll see. I guess it's going to come down to the mini games, which I'm sure are going to be great. So we're going to make that happen. That'll be going, and I'm sure that's going to make everyone very happy. But for now, Jesse, I want to thank you for spending today talking with me about video games.
Of course. Thank you for having me once again. It's always fun.
I always appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody showing up, watching, tuning in. You're the best audience in gaming. Come and let us know that today at the town hall. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.